Can you imagine college graduates who, after all of the study and work, are now able to move into the world of getting a lot of money, a lot of houses and cars and influence, suddenly deciding to turn away from that and for 2 years to give themselves to the care of the poor and the forgotten in our world? Stay tuned. We're going to hear about the real challenge of responsibility. Respone-Ability is an organization of volunteers who come using the spirit of a wonderful lady by the name of Cornelia Conley, a woman who lived many years ago, but who had a dream and a vision of being able to bring the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ into the lives, especially of children and the poor. Today, Respone-Ability is working all around the world. Here in the States, it works in Los Angeles, in Philadelphia, in Washington, D.C., but also in the Dominican Republic, as well as in Chile and Latin America. It's a wonderful challenge to young people to say, yes, I want to give the education that I have, not just perhaps to gaining a lot of money, but also now to care for the poor and those that are hurting around the world.
Respone-Ability program started, I believe, in 1974, and it was the idea of service to people who were poor. And it was for young college graduates, and usually they were living with the sisters, and they also committed to community life, and they would be praying together also. And it gradually, over the years, developed into a teacher program.
The program actually started as a service program where volunteers could give time to work with the sisters in a variety of ministries. And in the early 90s, when Teach for America was getting started, the director of Respone-Ability loved the idea and wanted to start a program specifically for Catholic inner-city schools. And so our teacher service program was launched.
The idea was that here were young people gifted with a good college education, and what were they going to give back to their communities? And I think Respone-Ability.
It's a 2-year commitment. While you're teaching in an urban area, you are getting your credential at a university. In Los Angeles, the university is Loyola Marymount, and you're going through a master's program along with living in community. So there's a spiritual aspect to the program, there's teaching as a service, and then there's the higher education for the volunteer.
The mission of the group of people who come together, college graduates who give themselves for 2 years to caring for the poor, is trying to form a community in which they grow spiritually, intellectually, and with a bond of love and care for the other people that are part of that community, as well as reaching out with deep love to the children that they're entrusted with. They're following the example of Cornelia Conley, the founder of the Society of the Holy Child Jesus. They follow her deep desire to bring the love of Jesus Christ, especially to children who are poor.
Our focus is on faith-based community and service in the spirit of Cornelia Conley, the foundress of the Holy Child, and really growing personally also.
And different Holy Child sisters all throughout the volunteers' experience share a little piece of Cornelia's story with the volunteers through sharing their own story. But in orientation, we really hope that the volunteers walk away with a good understanding of who Cornelia is and how she taught students with that spirit of reverence for individual gifts. And I find that Cornelia's philosophy of education really meets the needs in our inner city schools as well as our international sites, because children in all places are really yearning to have their gifts come to life.
Respone-Ability is concerned with trying to bring the presence of God in each individual that they work with, and also the community that they work with. What they're doing is they're allowing people to take all of their talents and let them blossom so that they can become the best persons that they can be. And this is all in the wonderful challenge of reaching out to the poor. They do that, not on their own, but coming together as a community of love and care, supporting one another with the ups and downs of any community. But again, challenging everyone to be the best that they can be.
We live in community. So when I first started the program, there was 8 of us living together in what used to be a convent. So now it's obviously a housing unit. And I guess the sense of spiritual support lies in the fact that I wasn't alone. And I had other people struggling through the same issues that I was struggling with. So morally, we're all embedded in that journey together. And we're able to vent with one another and support with one another spiritually.
What we tell our volunteers is, you get in what you put out, and they are very committed to growing and challenging each other. And I actually live with the Philadelphia community, and they are the most supportive group. They cook dinner for each other when one of them has a meeting or comes home late from graduate school, and they're always checking in about how their day was. They gather for prayer once a week to help process their experiences. And it is a commitment, but it's one that they've made, and they really grow from it.
I think living in community, especially being a first-year teacher, is a blessing. It's a struggle, and I feel like it's really hard to find people around who understand what's going on in your life and what the struggles are of living simply and being a teacher in the inner city at the same time.
I couldn't have gotten through the program without living in a household with first-year teachers that were going through it, and then having experienced second-year teachers that also were going through the same struggles of teaching in an inner-city school.
I think that my purpose here is to serve, and I feel like I'm serving a community that is often ignored at my school, and I feel that I have become really attached to the community itself, so it's hard to leave when you have so many relationships in that community and see so much love, even though the resources may be very low in that particular area. And in regards to responsibility, I've met some of the most incredible people, and I have been challenged and continue to be challenged. I am also reminded of things that I believe in through the people I'm surrounded by in this program or in the community where I teach. Sometimes, or oftentimes, you don't choose people that kind of push you to question or make you feel uncomfortable. And I feel that I felt uncomfortable from the beginning, and if not more now in my 4th year. The discomfort has transitioned from maybe being unsure with my experience and teaching to just questioning and being reminded to continue questioning my faith, to continue growing, to continue becoming the person that I feel I should be, to model Christian values. So if I'm not reminded by my community or where I'm at, it's easy to lose your footing and get caught up in other things.
Those who want to join Respone-Ability, it's important to know that there's a lot of good training that comes. Each July and August, there's an intensive chance for people to understand the deep philosophy and the direction of what Respone-Ability is about. And what is that all about? It's about making sure that each individual, a member of Respone-Ability, and also those that are being taught by Respone-Ability, are raised to the highest level of their talents and goodness. It's a wonderful experience of community, of knowing that you're not alone in this big task of bringing the good news of Christ, especially to the poor. It's oftentimes said that those who are part of Respone-Ability become, if you will, another parent of the children they serve, they care for, and they love.
You are challenged in ways you never thought you could endure. It's nothing like schooling or any other job. You're accountable and responsible for the lives of other people. And so when you yourself falter, it affects individuals. But on the same token, when you feel like you've done something important or touched the lives of other children, you get to feel the joy and share the joy with people.
It really enabled myself to find what path that I wanted to go to through my career. And the biggest strength that I feel that Respone-Ability has was just the support that they provided for their volunteers. Not only spiritually, they were there, we had retreats and we had all kinds of events to open ourselves up spiritually, but I think the support of the community, community members to community members and the staff to the community members was just wonderful. And I could not have gone through the program without that immense support. And I'm still friends with a lot of the people that I volunteered with.
My number one word or rule or concept is respect. I realize that in this day and age, I feel that society has lost a level of respect for each other on a human level. So I teach my students to have respect for themselves, for their fellow peers, and for life in general.
How do you do that?
A lot of it, is just with little sayings that I have. For example, the idea that words are powerful, and contradicting that, all saying that, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So I, discuss that little things that they say, like for example, shut up is a common one. It sends out negative energy versus asking someone to be quiet. So even though they're angry at each other, they'll be grinding their teeth, but they'll say, be quiet versus, shut up, because they know that I'm going to come back and be like, excuse me? So watching how they speak to each other, how they interact with one another, and respecting themselves on a human basis, I think is something it's a life skill.
But as human beings, I think we're all called to give back to other humans. And how do I know that? Like at the very basic sense, what makes us happiest realistically, is those times where we spend with people that we are dear to our hearts.
I feel like it's a day choice to choose to love every day. And I think it's a long time in coming. I couldn't say that it was one moment where I said, Jesus loves me so much that I'm going to give my life to him. I think it was day after day of choosing, getting up out of my bed and saying, today I choose to love. And the pattern of learning to love is what brought me here, I think.
Thank you so very much for being willing to be part of the mighty 800 family of supporters of this television ministry. I've come to you in the past and told you we need that support. We need 800 people who are willing to give us a donation every month to allow us to overcome the big costs of producing the program, getting it up on the satellite, and getting it into your home to bring blessings. I'm happy to say that as we started out with 418, now the number has moved to 505. Thank you so very much for being willing to become part of this experience of preaching the gospel. You are a vital part of this. When you join with your prayers and with your donations, you allow us to move away from the brink of, oh, well, that was a program, we're just going to stop, to allowing us to start again and be refreshed and renewed to preaching the gospel in more and more ways. Now, I know that as I come to you asking for financial support, this is a tough financial time in our country. But still, I've got to believe that preaching the good news of Christ through this powerful medium in which we come to hundreds of thousands of people, that this medium can allow the good news of Christ to change lives, and that's worth all the sacrifices that you want to make. Please, make sure that you're part of this family of the mighty 800. We need 295 more people. Would you please, if you're not part of the mighty 800 already, would you join and become someone that we can eliminate that number and have 800 people allowing the good news of Christ to be preached powerfully on television. What is it that teachers gain in their participation in Respone-Ability? They understand the true meaning of dedication. They also stand out, if you will, as a contrast to the commercialism in which we live today. They understand the beauty of community and sharing and giving themselves to one another in a powerful, rich way.
I was at a point where I was at a crossroads in terms of what I wanted to do after college, and I felt that living in a community that was based not only with spirituality but also with the philanthropy of giving back to the community, I felt that that was something that would give myself an ability to grow and put myself in just an uneasy situation that I might not otherwise be exposed to, and I thought that that would be a good opportunity for self-improvement and self-growth, and to be able to get to know people outside of my box or people that I wouldn't normally interact with. I
never really realized that teaching would be my passion or maybe my vocation. And I guess the signs are always there, but I was never really thinking about them. And now that I'm able to work with students on a daily basis and I guess just have my 2 cents, even sometimes just my presence, by listening to their problems or giving them some words of wisdom or encouragement, it allows me to feel a sense of fulfillment that I'm actually where I need to be. I feel that teaching is definitely unifying me with that essence of God or the essence of Jesus, and the idea that you teach one another, you serve each other. And although I'm there to serve the students, I believe in a sense they serve me as well. And it's a mutual relationship.
The hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, but everybody is different and everybody has those things that, you have to face challenges and you have to work hard and you have to be humble. And that's, if anything, this is what that job does for you. But everybody has that job, or everybody has that existence. I believe everyone has that experience.
I have seen a lot of different communities come and go, and I think for the most part, everyone has the common goal to serve. People come in with different faith and at different stages of their faith journey, and people definitely come in with different experiences with children and in education. So I think the commonality is that everyone comes in to serve in some way.
I was raised Catholic, but I didn't really practice, and after confirmation, which I should be confirmed, right? I should go to be really an active member. I basically stopped going to church. It was I go to confirmation, then my responsibilities are done. I kind of came back to the faith after kind of a crazy experience where I was at some party. I came back to the faith through kind of a festival. I realized the ultimate supremacy of God. I was working for a political organization as a street canvasser, and I was like, man, these guys are people. Why should I support any of these people? I can't trust them. And I realized that it's God's plan, So why I don't need to be on their side. I don't care about these people. I'm just interested in doing what is right and what He thinks is right. So
did that open the door to this idea?
That's basically what came here. Yeah.
I'm really excited to be a part of a program that has such a direct connection to social justice and inner city education and also international service. I'm really passionate about learning more about my own challenges and growth as a career and being part of people that are working through the same thing, all in a community that's really supportive and cares so much about each individual person.
Coming to face my image of God and coming to face my image of myself. And I think I had this image of God that was kind of a punishing person. And I felt like many times I was being punished for how hard my life was as a teacher last year. But in retrospect, and everything's different in retrospect, I can see how I was being schooled by God in a life of love. And I remember before coming into the program, I was in a silent retreat. And at that silent retreat, I was moved to pray, to ask God to teach me only one thing, and that is to love and not count the cost.
One of the wonderful things about the program is that many of the teachers who come for a year or 2 years, living together, having community life together, stay in inner city schools. I know several have stayed in the Los Angeles schools, the Catholic schools in Los Angeles. I think in Philadelphia several have stayed, and some of them have become principals of schools. So I see it as not only helping the schools right then, but then also it's a feeder for very good teachers.
What is it about the joy that happens from being a part of Respone-Ability? Well, there's the joy of being able to see talents that we have in ourselves start to blossom, and the talents of the students that they work with starting to grow. There's also the joy of finding a common direction of friendship and love in the community that they share. Also reaching out and becoming even a second parent to some of the children that are suffering and are living in very dire situations.
I really think that living a life of Jesus Christ is a pathway of success and struggle. I feel like more and more as I teach, I feel drawn more and more to the Eucharist because of that, specifically in the blessing and breaking of the bread. I feel that as I teach, my life becomes to mimic that blessing and breaking that.
The low is having students that think I hate them when I don't. And the low is not knowing what to do in situations where you're dealing with students, because realistically you're dealing with individuals. And you can't just treat them as like kids. You have to treat them as, especially I teach 7th and 8th grade, and that's when you really start to see the individuals coming out. Yeah. So it's a different ball game, than anything I ever had thought in my life.
It's nice to see that growth in different children, and there's a lot of nurturing that goes into the children, especially in 1st grade at that age. They come to me when they're 5, 6, and 7, so they need a lot of love and care.
A lot of times things that aren't taught in books and things that are taught emotionally and by having relationships with people are the most meaningful in life. And so there were many situations where sometimes before school I would have to do a little girl's hair because her mom wasn't around, or there were different legal battles going on, and I would step in as the surrogate parent. And I was the adult spending the most time with these kids. In a lot of the cases, I saw them more than their parents did. So it was just a great spiritual experience for me, as well as it was wonderful being able to connect with these kids on that level.
Thank you so very much for being part of this television ministry, for watching. I hope that you're being blessed and that your life is being transformed, if you will, by the power of the love of Jesus for you to bring hope and life into your world. Remember, this ministry is not supported by commercials. It's supported by you being willing to send us a check, send us a commitment to allow us to be able to continue this vital ministry. Please, please. It's really important that you make prayer and the giving of a financial gift important. To encourage you to send that gift, I'd like to send you, for your gift, a copy of this book by a friend of mine, Father Marty Padovani. The book is called Healing Wounded Relationships, especially relationships in the family. This book can really help. Please support us and let me help you through this beautiful book. Why is it that Respone-Ability is not a part of more young college students that desire to give themselves after graduation to the Lord in this service. We live in a world in which money gain is the big, big important thing. Commercialism is so very, very important. The whole idea then of moving into a world in which perhaps some of the comforts that we have in our own world are not as readily available, that's a real challenge, and it's difficult. And then there's also the concern that we have in our impersonal world of the internet, that we've got to try to make sure that the values of life are found in individual persons that we know and love and touch and have relationships with. This is the challenge of responsibility.
It's tough. I think day in and day out in this country, we're bombarded by who we are supposed to be.
I think society values capitalistic and materialistic achievements, and I myself struggled with it. My family didn't understand why.
Society makes it virtually, I feel, impossible to focus on volunteership just because of the economic constraints that we have. You know, once you volunteer, you're not making money. And the idea is once you go to school to make money. You know, and it coming down, simply put, ideally I see it as a sense of, you know, gaining knowledge and personal liberation. But I feel that if, you know, for those individuals that really want to apply themselves and try something that will challenge them to become, you know, mature and disciplined and find, you know, key components of their identity that they may have never known that existed, you know, programs such as Respone-Ability will allow them to really find out what they're really made of. Because you take away everything else that society kind of throws at you. You know, you live off $150 a month, and you live in a community that focuses on simplicity and helping each other spiritually and, you know, physically with working together and grading papers and helping out students. I think that this type of program will allow those individuals, even if they are few and far in between, to seek that journey, that road less traveled that in the end I think will benefit.
Respone-Ability has the wonderful goal and the achievement of bringing personal, spiritual, and society experience of growth and blessing. Started back in 1974, it's now blossomed into a beautiful experience of changing the world, of bringing the community of young college graduates to form a community of love that is changing the world, is changing the lives, especially of poor children here and around the world.